Yeah, I had a rough go of it on ladder today, but the thing is, right, is what you have to understand to play StarCraft, right? This is the most important thing, okay? If you play a lot of StarCraft and you're thinking about StarCraft all the time, this is for your aspiring, getting better players who are, for these 5K Andys in my chat, these 5K MMR Andys in my chat, okay? Even less. If you're playing a lot, you get in this mindset of how do I want to put this? If you're playing a lot, it feels like you should be getting so much better because you're learning so much and you're like practicing so much and you're putting so much time into the game. It feels like 3 days of time, it feels like you've learned so much, or you've been spending so much time, like you've played like 60 games, so that's like a ton of experience. Probably you've been learning from those games, like you're like, oh, I need to do this in this situation, go to this situation, blah blah blah. You're probably watching a lot, thinking about it a lot, and like developing different ideas. And typically your MMR actually doesn't really get much better, right? Like I'm sure everyone in the chat knows about this, but you're putting a lot of work in and nothing comes out, and it feels like a waste of time. Not a waste of time, but it feels like you're spinning your wheels. You're stuck in place. And what this is a good reminder. My match history right now. Let me switch over to in-game. So I was at the start of today, 3 hours ago. I was at, I don't know. At some point today, I was at almost 5,900 MMR. So it was like, let's say 5,880. So I've lost 300 MMR, right? Great. 300 MMR. And you think, that sucks. That's a bad day. But I played fairly well. Like, it wasn't that I was underperforming, I don't think. It's just that these guys were beating me. And what you can take from that is that I haven't been playing that much. So games played, 34. Last season might have a few games, actually. Yeah, so since this time where I was playing these games, which you guys can't see, I now realize. So around this time, right, I'm ending 5,900. I'm playing a lot, and this was probably around October time last year. So it's been about a solid 2 to 3 months. I would guess 2 months. So this is where I'll come full circle to what my point of this talk is that when you're in that mode where you're playing a lot, learning a lot, practicing a lot, and you're not making progress, what you have to remember is it's just not reflecting in your MMR yet. And it's because improving in StarCraft, especially as you get to higher ranks, that each like real, what I mean by real is not like just fluctuations, like real skill gain, MMR gain, is actually a culmination of a lot of skills. Like it increasingly gets more difficult, I think. And so you can see now I'm at 5,700 from 5,900, and that's because I didn't play for 2 months. And what that tells us, right, is that if you don't play, I know this is going to sound obvious, you get worse. But getting worse is not like that makes sense, right? But what I'm trying to say is that you get worse only by a little bit though. Right? You only get worse by it's a few hundred MMR, and I'm sure as I play a few more games, it'll slowly come back, right? And I'll probably go back up. But what it tells us, so imagine, right? This is the alternative. Imagine I didn't play for 2 months and I come back and all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, I stay the same. I stay at 5,900 and am winning the same number of games. Then what do we do, right? Because that means Not putting in work for 2 months, I stay the same. Putting in work for 2 months, I stay the same. Like, what am I doing here? I'm wasting, I can't get better. But because I got worse here, what that means is actually, if you put in the work, you actually can improve. I know, again, it sounds obvious, but what I mean is that the problem is you get too specific in the time scale, right? You get down to, I've played for a week and I've been working really hard for a week, but my MMR is not really going up by very much. It was 1 week, right? Do it for 2 months and you'll make a huge gain. But the problem is, right, is if I go seriously hard for 2 months and I get up to 6,000 MMR, in my head, I'm going to think, oh, well, I didn't actually improve. I just got back to where I was. But the problem is where I was is not, it doesn't exist. Like I have to improve to get back to that point. So I did improve. And if you continue on for another 2 months, maybe then you could push your skill level even further and be a 6-1 Andy, a 6-2 Andy, you know? So this is for all these 5K Andys in the chat who are hanging out. I think you can probably afford to worry less, like focus more on the process. These are 4K Andy. I think the 4K Andys are included in here. If you're a 4K Andy though, I'm curious, Molzy, I'm curious. Do you play a lot? And by a lot, like if you're a 4K Andy, there's two situations. You probably don't play that much, or you have some really bad habits. Yeah, no, exactly. So if you're a 4K Andy, you either don't play enough, or you have some really bad habits. Yeah, 3 games a day. 3 games a day is a fair amount, but 3 games a day, what that means to me is like you probably have some days where you don't play any. Yeah, so 4K. If you stick to it, there's a chance you could become a 5K Andy, for sure. But these 5K Andys in my chat who are playing like 10 games a day, 15 games a day, and you think like I'm not getting better. You are getting better. And the reason, the problem I see in myself, and because I see it in myself, I think a lot of you maybe can relate, where most of us aren't full-time StarCraft players, where we're 100%. Yeah, don't think you have to play to improve though. For some, it's more thinking about the game, says Winter. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that's super important. But that's what I mean. I'm saying is that that's probably related to Molzy. But yeah, I think that for the 4K Andys, thinking about there's like 2 ways you can be hard stuck. 4,500 Andys? That's what I mean. 4K Andys, 4 to 5K Andys. Oz Protoss, I see you around. So I see you around in Twitch chats, man. So I think that it seems like you're watching a lot, which is really good. Which is what Winter's talking about. It means you're probably thinking about it a lot. And if you're putting in a fair amount of games, like it doesn't have to be a lot. It just has to be a fair amount. So you're getting in there and playing. You can definitely become a 5K Andy. 500 MMR is a big jump though. For sure, 500 MMR is a big jump. So like it would take some time for you, but like I wouldn't be discouraged. I enjoy watching pros more than playing, said Molzy. That's okay. Like that's actually totally okay. But like even if you're playing a few games a day, that's totally chill. You can actually improve a lot playing a few games a day. It'll just be a little bit, it won't even be that much slower. That's what I'm saying, is that it actually just takes time. Like, because what you're really doing on a biological level, right, is you're developing essentially muscle memory. Like you're to move your fingers. It's like trying to, it doesn't matter how much you learn about playing guitar, for example, or piano or some instrument, right? As a beginner, in terms of theory and so on, and not just musical theory. I mean, like theoretically, like, oh, this is the chord. Your fingers still have to learn how to do that, and that's going to take some amount of time. So I think that's a problem where people think where you have a big mental breakthrough, and by mental I mean like a cognitive, like strategical, like, oh, you work out something along the line, and you think, oh, like, oh, I learned this crazy thing, like I should get way better. But you have to like implement that, and that takes time. And then what happens is like you'll get better, and like you'll go up, and then before you realize it, your new identity is the higher MMR player. And then you're like, oh, why am I stuck? Like, so for me, right, let's say right now I'm a 5.7k Andy. Let's say I went up to 5.9k and I was like, yeah, this is me. I'm a 5.9k Andy. And then I was like, well, why can't I become a 6k Andy, a 6.1k Andy, right? So you have to understand it takes time, and also understand, like, be able to look back and see the progress you have made over like a month or 2 month period. So, number one, fan, do you coach? I think I might start coaching, but not at the moment. I'm still wanting to get the stream and like content and stuff happening before I start coaching. But I think I'll probably start offering coaching maybe on the weekends. It'd have to be specific times. Like, I would only coach like Saturday mornings my time, which probably would work for Americans, would obviously work for Australians, and the Europeans might be 10 a.m. Let's say 10 a.m. Can Europeans do that? It's maybe Europeans might have to stay up late. Okay, what are you guys saying? So here's my dilemma. I've been at Prob 5800 back in 2014 as TOS, then quit for a while. MMR wasn't a thing. Oh, okay. It's hard to know before MMR, but yeah, cool. Came back recently, watched a lot of odds, played only macro, and beat 5.5 to 6k more than I lose, but died at 5k. Feel like I'm playing nearly perfect. Obviously, I'm not. If you're losing to worse players, it just means you're not solid enough. So what will happen? So this is why. Good players will play to the plan. So when you watch a pro game, there's like A, B, like I do this, he does that, I do this, he does that. So because he did that, I do this, like etc. Right? There's a like a dance, like a natural dance, and you learn that dance through watching. And so when you're playing better players that are doing the dance quote unquote correctly, you can actually match that and play it well, right? You can, a script is a great way to describe it. You can follow the script, and therefore you might actually get some games off some players that are high rated. But then you play a guy who doesn't follow the script, and you just don't have the reps in. So what will happen in my experience is you'll learn to defend the weird stuff, and you'll play more and become more solid, and you'll find your MMR will pop up like 200 or 300 points immediately, like at once. But you'll be stuck. Like you'll feel like you're stuck, and then it's not going to be a slow rise. You'll go up like a few hundred points. But you have to put in the games, and you have to think about your losses. Like you have to be thinking about, this guy, this is how he abused my build or something. Like, what can I do next time? And if you have that approach, slowly you'll like just fill in the holes that exist, right? And then you'll be able to both have the script and also know all the deviations. So right now you've just memorized the pro game script, right? But what the pro players have that's different is they have the script, but they also know exactly how to deviate off the script appropriately, and you have to, through experience, learn that, and you'll jump up a bunch. Risky says, got GM with 30 games a week, something like that. Yeah. So obviously if you're trying to get GM, which I don't know if any of you guys are around that MMR range, maybe Amplify. I think he's probably GM though with 5.25. That's probably GM level. But yeah, for GM, you even just to maintain GM, you kind of have to play a lot. So, what else, you guys? Oreo wants to get coached. Logic wants to get coached. Amplify wants to get coached. Everyone wants to get coached. I might set up coaching then, guys. It depends. I'm not sure what I would charge for it. it won't be immediately. For now, I don't want to take on too much. I'm gonna just stick with streaming, and obviously you guys can like just, you know, tune in, follow, etc., watch the stream, and that can be like a form of coaching, asking questions. It's not obviously going to be as personalized and so on, but I hope you guys maybe get something out of it. MJ was saying how wholesome it was. Okay, what else have you guys been talking about? Coach my Protoss, says Molsey. I think I could probably coach a 4K Andy Protoss. I think I would be okay to actually coach any level, any race, because it would just be different. I'd have to be like, look, you're coming to a Zerg player, which means you're going to get a different product if you're a Protoss or a Terran. So if you're a weaker Protoss or Terran, obviously it doesn't really matter what race as much. And then if you're stronger, it's more like mindset and like approach and things like this. And then like I would be able to identify probably some weaknesses, but I wouldn't be like build order Andy. Okay, what are we talking about? See, all I did to get my rank was watch the one and only Ryan Jones live at WCS, then got coaching from the man himself. Sadly, I haven't earned my sunnies. That's funny. Logic, I'm serious, man. I'll be the regular. I don't mind dollars. I just want to break my shackles and plateau. Well, Logic, if I start coaching, we could do it. We could see if I could help you. Part of helping, like, I have to identify what's your issues. But anyway. Okay. In all honesty, you teaching me the macro cycle made me much better. Yeah, so Erebus's problem, right? I talked earlier that either, if you're a 4K Andy, you have one of two problems. Either you don't play enough, or you've got like a fundamental flaw in what you're doing. So even though you're playing a lot, you're just cementing your bad habits. And Erebus was the latter category. So he was not macroing, not actually improving his macro, because he wasn't doing fundamentally good macro concepts and mechanics. So even though he was getting better at what he was doing by playing more, he wasn't actually, what he was doing had a natural cap, because it wasn't the way you want to macro. So if a problem I've had in the past is I've said, just make roaches, just play, and you'll be fine. But what you have to understand is that the players don't actually understand what they need to do better. So like I watched a friend of mine play, and I'd been telling him like, this is what you should do, this is what you should do. And then I actually physically sat behind him and watched him, right? And what he did is he would inject one base, then look somewhere else. I actually think Erebus might have had this problem as well. He would inject like his main, then he would move his army around, build a building, then he would inject his natural, and then like his third wouldn't get injected for a couple cycles, and then like he'd inject the natural. So like there's no method to the madness. So it doesn't matter how much he plays, he'll get better at that like kind of laissez-faire, just do whatever, play around, right? And he'll slowly make it more efficient. But what he needs to do is develop an inject cycle where he goes every time main natural third, main natural third, main natural third. And then so it's like main natural third, move my army, play around, main natural third, make some units. So like that's the macro cycle. It's like main natural third, make some units, make some overlords, then play the game. Okay, that's the idea of macro cycle. So you've got to meet the player where they're at. And I think sometimes just like I have this joke of macro better forehead, like, which is the equivalent of like, that's the advice we give people. And it's true, but you have to understand what macroing better is. I had a rant about this the other day about mechanics, and this is kind of tangentially related. Anyway. Yeah, macro better forehead. I actually think we can upload this talk to YouTube. I think we can put this on YouTube. I don't know how long I was going for, but I think this is worth keeping for people to like see or rewatch. So, I mean, I guess we can just do like an outro or something. So guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more videos, and check out my stream where, you know, we talk about StarCraft, we play StarCraft. If you like that, you might